Welcome to From the Ground Up. This is a mini-sode. So what we are doing is we'll probably do an hour or two of us speaking with Ian Bessell from S&J Reptiles. Before we get into that, I just want to kind of explain to you how this episode is going to work. But Port City Pythons shirts available on portcitypythons.com, as well as we have some animals available. We may not be shipping. I mean, it's pretty rough here in Philly, but we can hold those animals for no extra fee. And other than that, that's really all I got. So if you guys don't know, Ian Bessell is a green tree python breeder, but he also inherited the responsibility of kind of putting together Southeast Carpetfest. So Ian, what is Southeast Carpetfest? And, what are you guys doing over there?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Appreciate you having me on to talk about Southeast Carpetfest. Pretty much, don't let the name be a misnomer. It's called Carpet Fest, but it's really more of a reptile fest. If you think kind of get together, barbecue, social gathering, more so than trade show, swap, conference, seminar kind of event. But it's called Southeast Carpet Fest. It's taking place February 9th at 2 p.m. And this year we're being hosted by Pia and Cody Bartolini in Melrose, Florida at Terrestrial and Arboreal. And it's going to be basically just a big get together barbecue. It's an excuse to get out from behind your computer and go meet the folks that you interact with on Facebook or Instagram, social media, and chat about reptiles. So the event this year, we've got sponsors because the terrestrial and arboreal facility is actually primarily a venomous reptile facility. So not exactly, some people may not be as comfortable as others, but kind of difficult to host it in the middle of all that. So we've got some rental party tents coming in and chairs and tables and all that good stuff. So we've
Please
got some
be
sponsors.
careful, everyone.
Yeah, I want to give them a shout out. So the folks that are sponsoring the 2019 Southeast Carpet Fest include Forrest and Desiree Fanning at Cold Blooded Cafe. We also got feedersource.com. We got Robin and the team over at Ship Your Reptiles, and then also the guys over at the Herpticulture podcast. So all of those folks are helping make Southeast Carpet Fest this year possible. So big thank you and shout out to those guys.
Awesome. So it looks like you just ramped it up. I mean, last year was the first one, correct? And that one seemed, crazy, man. Just the auction and everything involved.
Yeah, actually, last year was the second one. So there was one previously a few years prior that was put on, but it sort of was a one and done kind of event, and so we resurrected it last year. So I do want to make sure we give shout out and credit to those guys who started it. It was KJ and David. So want to make sure to give those guys credit. But yeah, last year was kind of the rebirth or the recreation of the Southeast Carpet Fest.
How'd you become that guy?
That's kind of a story. I don't know. I think it's like George Washington fell asleep at the end of the table. He became president. I don't know what happened. So I fell asleep or drank too many beers or something. But yeah, do you want me to tell that story now, or you want me to give the rest of the kind of the rundown on the event first?
Am I getting you all out of order? We'll get far out in left field, I guess. So yeah, go over this year's Carpet Fest a little bit more.
All right. So, like I said, February 9th, 2 p.m., it's going to be in Melrose, Florida. For those of you who don't know, Melrose, Florida is just outside of Gainesville, Florida. So, Pia and Cody live out on 5 acres, kind of out in the country. So, that's kind of the closest city, North Florida, if you're looking for a landmark. But as far as lodging, so Gainesville is kind of the closest place where you're going to get hotels. There's also Airbnbs available in Melrose, Florida, Keystone Heights, Florida, and Gainesville. And then if you're coming in from out of state and you're flying, I know we do have some guys coming in. Eric Burke is coming in from out of state, Scott Borden, Josh Swensel. So if you're flying in from out of state, the closest airport is actually the Gainesville airport. It's about 25 minutes away. But it is a little more expensive to fly into Gainesville. So a lot of folks are looking at Jacksonville, which is about an hour and a half, or Orlando, which is about 2 hours away. And then also Friday night, kind of pre-Carpet Fest, we're going to get together probably at one of the local breweries in Gainesville. So again, if you're staying in Gainesville, that's convenient. if you're planning on coming into town early Friday night, just get a hold of me or Pia and Cody or one of the other people involved, and we'll clue you in on the details for the Friday night pre-Carpet Fest get together. And then also, if you are planning to attend, if you could go onto the Facebook group and find this year's event page and just RSVP. We're trying to get a rough idea of people so we have a head count for food, and we make sure we got enough chairs and all that good stuff. So if you're going, just if you would click that you're going. A lot of people have clicked they're interested, but I don't think we're going to have 500 people. So if we could get you just to click you're actually going if you're going, that would really be helpful. And then people have asked, do you have to buy tickets or is there a cost of admission? So you don't have to buy tickets. It is a free event, but there is a cost of admission, and that is you got to sign up to bring something. So we actually this year, I've got a new website that we're using that allows us to put it all online. So it's kind of got a big checklist, and you go in and you sign up whether you want to bring dessert or appetizers or whatever. So if you check out the Facebook group or the Facebook event, all the links are there, and you can go ahead and go there and check it out. Amanda Rua is heading that up, and so she's been putting it all together. You can get a hold of her as well. But all you got to do is bring something if you're planning on coming, and then just RSVP on the Facebook group. The other big thing about Carpet Fest this year is the auction, and a little bit different than we did it last year, and a little bit bigger than we did it last year. So last year we did shirts and the auction for USARK. And this year we did shirts again for USARK, which have already closed. So if you didn't get a shirt, it's too late. Sorry. But we sold, I think, 115 shirts and raised almost $1,500, which beat last year's total. So that all goes to USARK. And then the auction this year is all to benefit nidovirus research. So one of the reasons why we're hosting this year at Pia and Cody's facility is because they've been kind of on the leading edge of nidovirus research with the green tree pythons. And so we're hoping to raise a bunch of money. We've got 4 U.S. research universities identified that we want to send money to kind of jumpstart and accelerate some of the learnings with regards to nidovirus and pythons. And so that's why this year's auction is such a big deal. So the auction is live now. So the first 66 items are live. The bidding has been going on for about a week, and there's going to be 2 more rounds of items. Last year we had 85 items total. This year it looks like we're already around 150 items. So it's a much bigger group of items to get made graphics and post. And my wife's been working night and day and hating every time I tell her that I got another item donated or another box shows up at the front door. So we're hoping to get the next batch of items up this weekend, and then there'll be a third batch of items as well. So go out, check out the items, bid them up. Like I said, check back often because there'll be more items added, but we've got some just amazing stuff donated this year. I got a bunch of old chondro kind of historical pieces from Eugene Bessell, so some original nest boxes and original egg jars that he used, back in the day. And we've got just a ton of vouchers and T-shirts and jewelry. Some people went big. Steve Volk donated $1,000 voucher towards an Amazon basin emerald tree boa, a bunch of $500 vouchers, just all kinds of stuff. We've got a bunch of herpstats have been donated, a bunch of caging. There's some cool taxidermy stuff that's going to be coming up in the next round. A bunch more live animals have been donated. So check back and bid it up because, like I said, it all goes to a good cause. It's all going to nidovirus research, and we're really hoping to raise some big dollars this year.
Wow, that's crazy. So when does this auction end, and kind of can you bid in person as well as online?
Yeah, so that's the other big change this year. So last year the auction was an entirely online auction. And then after seeing how they do it at the Southwest Carpetfest and the Northeast Carpetfest, they both do a live finish. So we decided that that's how we're going to do it this year at the Southeast. So basically, all of the bidding is online currently, and then there will be a live finish at the event on February 9th. So you have an incentive to come to the event if you really want an item, because that the people at the event will have the last bid. If you really want an item and you can't make it to the event, you better find somebody to be your proxy bidder who's going to the event. because basically the live attendee bids will have the last chance at all of the items.
That's awesome. So if no one has seen yet, I mean, there's a lot of really, really awesome people who have donated, but so you can get a voucher from us for $200, and I think that's at less than $100. And I mean, there's a bunch of other really cool people from all throughout Morelia, like you said, Emerald if you're into basins and stuff, or Amazon basins if you want to go that route. I mean, there's so much, so many cool things.
Yeah, I know.
What's your record number as far as the auction? What was last year's count?
So last year, our total raised at Southeast Carpetfest last year was $12,000. So 1,100 of that was in shirts, and then we had some last minute donations last year. Let me see. I might be able to pull up the total of just the auction last year was $9,815. And as of this morning, the first 66 items were already at around $6,300. So
Holy shit.
I think that we're gonna break if we can average $100 an item and we've got 150 items, we're gonna raise some big dollars. We'd really like to raise 20 or $25,000 if we could, because when you're splitting it four ways between four universities, you really want to give each one a chunk of money to do some research, and of course that information is going to benefit the entire community. So there's a ton of really great items coming up though, and they're not even all pythons. Somebody, I think Ty Parks has donated some more lizards. I think somebody donated a blue tongue skink. Somebody donated a gecko. There's just tons of stuff. David Brahms has donated a bunch of 3D printed art. We've got a bunch of stuff that's come in from Triple L and from ZoomEd. We've also got some custom engraved stuff that Brian Schaefer from Herp House had made up with the Southeast Carpet Fest logo. So,
Awesome.
I mean, there's just tons of cool stuff. Reptilinks has got some stuff coming in the next round. We've also got some nidovirus test kits that are going to be in the next round. So the items that are already up are actually some really nice items, but there's two more waves of items coming. So that's why I'm telling people just check back often and keep bidding and come to Carpet Fest and bid the live finish.
Hell yeah. You know exactly what they are, going to be doing with that money, kind of what, obviously it's being donated to the nidovirus, but I mean, what is the hope as far as the, captive keeping community and such?
Well, we're not funding specific research projects, but we are funding specific research laboratories that are already working on nidovirus and pythons or have projects in the pipeline. And so what we're really hoping to do is to answer some of the basic questions around, very basic things like what's the best sanitizer to use against this organism? What's the proper methodology for quarantining and those sorts of questions so that we can really understand, how do we as a community deal with it? And then maybe this type of research answers the questions that then ultimately lead to things like incubation period and transmission and or ultimate answers like vaccines maybe even. But the thing is that you gotta crawl before you walk. And this virus has only been documented in pythons, in particular in green tree pythons, for just a few years. And so what we really want to do is answer some of the most basic questions first, but jumpstart the research. And maybe this is a multi-year effort so that we can really get to the point that we can answer the questions of not only how do we detect it or how do we avoid it, but how do we eliminate it from the community entirely.
Yeah, that's huge. And especially because I'm sure that's not a very sexy subject that gets a lot of funding, elsewhere. So, I mean, we must have to, start something grassroots like this.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if we want those questions answered, it's got to be self-funded from the community, and maybe some of our brethren over in the ball python community will get involved as well because I know it's a concern in their community, and really it affects a whole wide variety of species. I think it's been documented in some turtles or tortoises and different lizards, so it's not even just a green tree python or Morelia issue. So as a community, this is a way for us to give back to ourselves by really trying to accelerate the learning and generate some real science.
Awesome. Now you scared the shit out of me. So, do you have anything else to add about this year's Carpet Fest?
No, all I would say is if you're interested in coming, you should come. I think that one of the things about Carpet Fest is it's a little bit intimidating because of the name. Not everybody keeps carpets. As you can see, I don't keep carpets. But a lot of people that keep carpets keep other species, and it's really more a gathering of reptile people. So if you're thinking of coming, come. If you live in the area and you're interested in reptiles and you want to meet people and get out from behind your computer, come. You won't be disappointed. You're going to meet a ton of really cool people, and you're going to have a great time. And then on top of that, you're going to get to see an awesome collection at Pia and Cody's facility. Joe, did we lose you?
Are
Oh,
we
you're back.
alive? Holy shit.
What happened? We lost you.
I don't know. Um, what's the last thing you said? I don't know.
I was just saying that if you're thinking about coming or you're hesitant or you're not sure, come.
Feel like we really fucked up your closing pitch there for
Well, that's
Carpet
all right.
Fest.
Hopefully, people listen to the opening and not the closing.
All right. Hopefully they were sold before that. So I guess we can now backtrack to how you became the kind of organizer of Southeast Carpet Fest.
Well, so that story actually starts at Southern Carpet Fest 2017. So that's actually when I met you and Melissa for the first time. So at Bill Stiegel's place. So I had actually, so the whole story really goes back to Evan Browder, if you want to be honest. It's really Evan's fault. So if he's listening, maybe he'll call in and he can chime in. But I had been talking to Evan quite a bit at the time. I don't know if you guys will remember, but he had a female that was gravid, and it was his first time breeding green trees. And so I was talking to Evan frequently, if not constantly, about this female, and he needed a lot of help in kind of getting through that situation. But anyhow, so I knew that I had a business trip coming out to Texas, and I reached out to Evan and I said, "Hey, I'm coming out to Texas and I have some flexibility. If I was going to come out and go to either the Arlington NARBC or this Carpet Fest thing that you're talking about constantly, which should I go to? Like, which would be better?" And he's like, "Oh, hands down, Carpet Fest." Like, there wasn't even, I don't even think he took a breath before he answered the question. It was just immediately like, definitely Carpet Fest. I was like, "Okay." I said, "But I don't keep carpets." And he's like, "It doesn't matter. Like, just come. You're going to have a great time." And so I said, "All right." So I looked at my schedule, and it all worked out, and I was able to go out, and actually it was a pretty cool week because I was out there for a few days before Carpet Fest for work, and so I got to go over and actually check out Evan's place and meet Evan, and then I also got to go hang out with Mark Hager and meet him and check out his stuff and meet Tony and Melissa Jerome and check out their place, and then met up with a bunch of people and went to the zoo. And checked out the facility there. Met Jason Brumley and and just had a great time. And that was all before Carpet Fest. So then I went to Carpet Fest at Bill Stiegel's place, and it was just like this huge ruckus party. And I met you and Melissa. I met Matt Minatola. I met Chris Salemi. I met Terry Burwell and Matt Morris and um, Brandon Sanders and Eric and Owen. I mean, it was just like I met all these people that I had only known online, and I met all of them in this like short period of time, and it was just a whirlwind of like 3 4 days, and the Carpet Fest at Bill Stiegel's was just a party. I mean, it was 2 nights back to back up till early AM hours, and then Ubering it back to the hotel, and and so like I got home from this huge party, basically this huge party weekend, and my wife's like, did you have a good time? And I'm like, man, this party was incredible. It was like it went to all hours. People are passed out on the couch, and Kim Stiegel's taking Brian Phillips' keys away, and there's a margarita machine getting drained multiple times, and you and Melissa are in the pool till like 3 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, wow, it sounds like a pretty crazy time. And I said, yeah. And And so then I started thinking like, wow, like so that was the Southern Carpet Fest. So I wonder, I heard about all these other Carpet Fests. I wonder where and when the Southeast Carpet Fest is. So I go online and I start looking on Facebook, and it's like, oh, there was one, I think it was in 2015. And they did it the one time and they never did it again. It was it just, I guess it wasn't a big success, and they just decided that they didn't want to put the effort to do it multiple times, and they didn't get a good response. So they were like, well, we're not going to do it again. I was like, well, man, it was such a great time. Like, how could we not have one of those in the Southeast? And really, I was just looking for an excuse to go to another one. And basically they were like, well, if you want to try to resurrect it, go for it. We'll support you and we'll help you, but someone's got to, I guess, corral the cats, or take the lead. And so I was like, well, maybe we can like put out the word and see at Daytona this year how many people are interested. And so this was in 2017. And so we like, got some people together on Facebook, and we got together in Daytona, and it was like, wow, there's a bunch of people here. There's like 10, 15 people showed up and said, yeah, let's do this. This sounds awesome. And so then we just started planning, and from there it kind of all came together. Dave Palumbo volunteered his place, and then Bill Stiegel flew in from Texas, and we just got a whole bunch of people involved, and it was awesome, and we had a great time. And so this year is looking like it's going to be even bigger.
Yeah, that's crazy. So is it true that camping out is an option?
Yeah, I didn't
So if
mention
you
that.
happen to
So,
partake in
yep,
activities beforehand?
if you have one or two adult beverages too many, apparently there's 5 acres. You are welcome to pitch a tent. You are welcome to car camp. I guess if it's nice out, you're welcome to sleep on the ground. It is North Florida, so it could be a little chilly, but I doubt for those folks that are from out of state, it'll feel like winter. But
Yeah.
it'll be winter to us. We'll have our air conditioner off and our windows open. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good time of year to kind of get some of us Northeasterners or even Northwesterners out from the cold, man.
Well, that was kind of the idea when we looked at the calendar, and when Southern was, and when Tinley is, and when Daytona is, and when Southwest Carpet Fest, and we figured the best time of year to have a party in Florida is the middle of the winter, because who doesn't love Florida in February? It's better than Wisconsin in February.
Yeah, that's for sure. So what is like I mean, obviously it's Florida. So I mean, really, who could you expect to see at this?
Well, I mean, like I said, we've got some people coming in from out of state, and there last year we had almost 50 people, and I expect that we'll have probably more than that this year. So I don't want to say who's coming for sure and who's not, because then of course those people won't come, and
Yeah.
last minute. So, but I know for sure. Like I talked to Eric Burke just recently. He said he booked his ticket. He's coming. I know. That Scott Borden's coming down. I think him and his wife are coming. So there's definitely people coming in from out of state, and it'll be a big party. And last year, like I said, we had about 50. We're planning for 75 this year. So
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, to think at one point I wouldn't even be able to fathom like a Morelia type anything, a gathering getting 75 people together. Even though it isn't, it's obviously not just Morelia, but still. That's such a I'm sure Eric and Owen didn't expect that when they first began Carpet Fest.
yeah, I definitely don't think that they expected it. But man, the one at Bill Stiegel's house that year in Texas when I met you and Melissa, I mean, that was a big party. There were a lot of people there, and the Northeast this past year was huge. So it definitely has grown. And then this year in August, there's gonna be a UK Carpet Fest.
Yeah, that's
So it's not
crazy.
international.
So, if anyone, I mean, if you guys don't know, obviously, like Ian said, they're all over the place, but the Northeast one is here in Philly. So now we will be attending that one, which that will be our home Carpet Fest. Unfortunately, not Southern anymore, but we will check out the OG chapter, as they call it, uh, Northeast Carpet Fest. Yeah, I really look forward to finally getting to that one.
Yeah, that was a heck of a party last year, and that was the first Northeast that I had been to, and definitely they throw a heck of a party, and it was a good time, and a lot of people from out of state, and who doesn't love a good opportunity to watch Owen shave his beard too?
Yeah, the interesting bets that go on in the auction. At least it seems like the live auction at Carpet Fest.
Yeah, the live auction. I think that's a big reason why we incorporated it this year was the shenanigans that go on at a live Carpet Fest auction, especially once everyone's had a couple of adult beverages, is it's almost worth the price of admission alone because it's almost like a comedy routine.
Absolutely. So now that we talked all about Carpet Fest, people know what Carpet Fest is. Let's talk a little bit of, I mean, obviously last time we had you on, we talked green trees. So if anyone wants to, and I felt like I said that disappointingly, I didn't mean to say that. Last time we talked about green trees and we talked for like over 3 hours. So if you ever want to hear us ramble about green trees, check out that episode. But let's get into some of the other breeding products you have going on. I mean, I know you've been really into Corrales, so let us know what kind of projects you're working with and what species.
Yeah, so I've been bit by the Corrales bug pretty bad. Working with a number of species, either here or in conjunction with some breeding loans that I've got going on with a couple of other guys. I've got some Corrales at a couple other facilities around the country, up with Keith McPeak in New Jersey and out with Harlan Wall out in Colorado, and a couple out with Bill Hughes out in Las Vegas. So those three guys are really the guys who got me into Corrales, probably along with Rory out in California and Abby here in Florida. So I had gone the direction of a monoculture collection in order to kind of dial in the green trees and get to the point that I felt comfortable breeding them consistently. And but then, like everybody else, I got the itch for wanting something else or some variety, and so my collection over the years has always been much more varied, and it was really the first time in 30 plus years of keeping reptiles that I had just one species, and so I was looking around at what sorts of other types of snakes in particular I could keep in similar setups with similar husbandry with similar temps and similar requirements, and obviously the arboreal boas were kind of like a natural progression from the green trees, and so um, most closely being the emerald tree boas, and so those were kind of the first thing that caught my attention. But then as I started learning more about Corrales and looking at the other species of Corrales, I just really fell in love with all the variety.
Oh, no, we're skipping again.
Not only those, the tail tree boas.
Oh, I heard you for a second. Wow, we're doing good here. This doesn't usually happen. Now I'm just curious if you guys can see me right now, or you can see Ian, or neither.
Oh, am I back, Joe? Are we still live?
Yeah, we are. What
Oh,
happened?
this is like a disaster. My phone, the battery died. You told me to unplug it, so hopefully the audio is okay now. because
Yeah,
now
yeah. So that's 100% my fault. So we were kind of playing with fire there with the whole phone charger
yeah,
situation. So there may be a little bit of a low hum, but I'm going to try my best to edit it all out. So, you guys will survive. Sorry, but
yeah. Well, I
it's
don't know
better
where I
than nothing.
lost you.
So obviously, you were first interested, at least from a visual standpoint, from emerald tree boas, and then how'd you get onto the other corrales from there?
Well, so from the emeralds, that was sort of the most natural progression with the green trees. But as I started learning about the other species in the Corralis complex, I saw blacktail tree boas or the Ruschenbergeris up at Forrest Fanning's place, and that's the largest species of Corralis, and those things are pretty awesome. And it's like, wow, these things are really cool. And then I went up and visited Keith McPeak and went out to California and visited Rory and saw the just the amazing variety in the hortulanas or the Amazon tree boas. I know you guys have one of those, and just not just the natural variation, which is pretty amazing in and of itself between Halloweens and bicolors and yellows and the heavy patterns. But then you get into some of these other the calicos and the tigers and the calico tigers and the tiger leopards and the ligers and the I mean
There's
it's
not really a liger, is there?
so there is. Rory produced it's a tiger
Oh no.
leopard cross, so I guess it's considered a liger Amazon tree boa. But the variety of colors and the color palette on the Amazon tree boas is almost completely opposite of the green tree pythons. The green trees, it's white and yellow and black and green and blue. With the Amazons, it seems like it's all about the yellow and the red and the really even the kind of going further down there is then into the hypo and then the super form of the hypo, which is the leucistic. And when I saw the first leucistic at Daytona last year, I mean, that was just it. I was like, all right, so now like I'm totally hooked on Amazons. I got to get hypos. I got to try to produce Lucy's. And I've been talking to Abby's ear off about hypos and Lucy's and possible hypos. And there's so much about the genetics about Amazons in particular that's not understood that just makes it that much more interesting to me and more, more exciting to get into them. So Amazon's definitely very, very interested, but there's also the annulatus. I really like the annulatus a whole lot. And that just kind of happened by happenstance. And really, that goes back to Carpet Fest at Bill Stiegel's place because I met Terry Burwell there and just got to talking to him. And we were talking about all kinds of things, Central American herbs. And I think he spent some time down in Costa Rica, and I had been down there. And we are just chit chatting about all kinds of things. And then, he works with rhino rats and he works with some other cool stuff. And because of the connection I made with him at Carpet Fest, I ended up getting some annulatus from him. Actually, I think it was after the second Carpet Fest when I saw him at the one at Tony Jerome's house. And then when I finally, was able to get a pair from him and hopefully maybe going to get a couple more. And so the annulatus are really, really pretty cool. Also, their head shape is totally different than an Amazon. It almost looks like a rainbow boa head on an Amazon tree boa body. And they do this dramatic color shift day to night, which is really cool.
Really?
So that's another species that I really like. But
Wait, so what
no,
is it? What's really this difference between day and night?
so a lot of times like they can be almost like a brown with black pattern during the day, and then at night they're almost like a ghost. It's like this like whitish silver color. So they can like do this dramatic like color shift day to night. I don't have any of the colored annulatus yet, but I'm hoping to get some of those. I do have a male coming from Tim Morris, hopefully in the spring. Unless anyone is coming down from the Maryland area for Carpet Fest, if you're driving, get in touch with me because I might need you to transport an annulatus down for me. But
Just give
otherwise,
me
it's coming in
gas
the
money,
spring.
man. Just give me gas money. We're going. That would be the most
Right?
expensive shipping cost of all time.
Yeah, you and Melissa, you guys should drive down from Philly for Carpet Fest and
For
bring
Carpet
me
Fest
my
to ship your
annulatus.
boa.
Exactly. Exactly. It's too cold to ship it right now. So, but that's another species where I don't think the genetics are quite worked out. And You know, as far as the relationship between the color and the parents and the offspring. And some of the colored annulatus are just unbelievably phenomenal looking. And so, another species that's just not very well represented in the hobby. And I think that's the cool thing, the Ruschenbergeri and the annulatus. There's not a lot of people working with those. There's just not a lot of them here. And then with the Amazons, it's just all about the variety. It's the difference of the phenotypes that you can see in the Amazon tree boas is equal, if not greater, to the differences in phenotype that you see in the green tree pythons. And so it's very similar in that regard, and probably why I'm sort of addicted to both of them at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's at least slightly less confusing genetically with some of the Amazon stuff, but the annulates, I didn't even know that those come in like color phases or what's the color palette? Is it like Amazon tree boas, the Russian burger eye and the annulates?
So the Ruschenbergeri, it seems like the majority of the ones that are here in the U.S. come from Costa Rica, and so most of them have a very similar phenotype. There's some variation, but they're black in the tail, hence the name, and then they can have a variety of patterning, and some of them have more or less yellow or whitish color to them as they go more towards the head. My understanding is there's some that come out of Venezuela that look a lot different, that have a lot more orange to them. And then apparently the Holy Grail Ruschenbergeri, which I've never seen in person. I've seen some pictures. I think Nick Mutton might be the one who had some at one point from Trinidad Tobago. They're almost like a golden yellow. They're just unbelievable looking, and they have a lot less black, a lot less pattern, and so there is some variety. I don't know if it's quite as dramatic in the Ruschenbergeri as, let's say, in the Hortolanus. And then with the annulatus, there's definitely a lot of variety there. I've seen some that are more like this brownish color, some that are more of a silver gray, some that are almost jet black, some that are an orange, and then some that are almost like red. So quite a bit of variety. And then I think different degrees of patterning on those as well. But I just haven't seen a whole lot of those, and to be honest, I'm just getting into those, so I'm not really the expert to speak to that. But the ones that I've seen, whether they be in different people's collections or there's quite a few in some AZA facilities. It seems like there's some variation, but maybe not as dramatic as there is in the full range, because I don't think they're very well represented.
And are you getting your hands on captive born and bred animals in the US, or are you still relying on imports as far as those species go?
So right now I only have a very small group of annulatus, and like I said, the one pair that I got a while back came from Terry Burwell, so those are both U.S. captive bred, and the male that I'm getting in the spring is coming from Tim Morris, so that one's also captive bred. So right now all my annulatus are U.S. captive bred. The Ruschenbergeri, right now, actually the adults that I'm working with are actually up at Keith McPeak's place in New Jersey, and those are actually U.S. captive bred adults. Those were produced by Eli Carlton, I think is his last name. He's also, I think he's up in New Hampshire. And the Ruschenbergeri I have here are actually offspring from those. So Keith likes to make the joke that, when we've got these breeding loans, I send animals up to him, and then he likes to joke that he breeds them, I have to feed them. So he sent the babies down to me. And those have actually been kind of challenging to get to started, almost more like chondros than some of the other Corrales. But the Ruschenbergeris and the annulatus that are here are all U.S. captive born and bred.
Oh wow. So what's the difference? What are you scenting with and what are you trying to get going with these guys?
So with the Ruschenbergeri,
Yeah.
so I've tried a lot of my normal chondro tricks, live pinkies, frozen thawed pinkies, chick down. None of that seemed to really work too well in the beginning. And so then, ironically, I happened to have some basilisk eggs that were hatching out. So, for those of your listeners who don't know, I live in South Florida. We have a huge population of exotic lizards in South Florida. And a common occurrence is for us to find, we call them mystery eggs, out in our raised garden bed. So my kids were out back and we were I think, planting pumpkins or tomatoes or something. And the kids dug up a bunch of eggs. And so I often, they'll just stick them in a deli in the garage and see if they hatch. And a lot of times they actually do, but we don't know what they're going to be until they hatch. So they typically are either basilisks or curly tails or Cuban nitinols. So these happen to be basilisks, and there were about a half a dozen of them. And so I thought that, seeing as those were at least captive hatched and they hadn't eaten anything, so they wouldn't have any parasites, and they come from the same place as Ruschenberger eye. I've seen both of them in Costa Rica when I've been down there. So I thought that might be a natural prey item for them. So I thought, well, I've got them. I might as well take advantage of the opportunity. And there were only three of these little ruchies, and it turned out only one of them ate a basilisk, which um, was kind of disappointing, to be honest, but was also surprising. So it was kind of a little experiment that I did. But so I got one of them initially to eat a basilisk, and then unfortunately, all of my other scenting tricks just didn't work with them. And so what my last resort oftentimes is going to be a live lizard. And so again, living in South Florida, I've got access to brown anoles and house geckos. So it seemed brown anoles seemed to be what they really liked. So at this point, I had three of them. I had one that took a basilisk, and then took, I think, one or two lizards, and then I got it onto pinkies. And then I had another one that took a pinky, then took an anole, then took a pinky and a pinky, and that one's now going on pinkies. Then I've got one holdout that's eaten like four or five anoles, and just this week I got it to take a pinky head for the first time. So I think I'm kind of getting over the hump with them, and maybe they'll be all on pinks from here on out, and then we'll just have to panicure them for any potential internals at some point when they're a little bit bigger. But they definitely seem to be keyed in on the anoles. And I tried geckos as well. Kind of mixed results there too. I think I had one that ate a gecko and one that didn't eat a gecko, and anoles seemed to be what they were wanting for whatever reason. So, but looks like got them almost switched over to pinks at this point.
Wow. So yeah, there's a Florida perk for you. Just getting lizards from all types of lizards. But I guess the kids didn't mind that the basilisk
No,
was missing.
that's a whole story in and of itself. So there were six eggs that the kids dug up, and so I incubated the six eggs, and all six of them hatched. And so I was really kind of in a quandary there, because they're not native, so I don't really want to release them. Um, and the kids didn't want me to put them in the freezer necessarily, and I didn't want to end up with six new basilisk lizards as pets either. So my kids love the snakes, and they understand the circle of life, and the everything eats something. So I made a deal with them, and the deal was that they could keep three of them, and we would find them a new home, with friends or pet shop or whatever, and I could have three of them to feed to the snakes. So that was the initial deal, was we would split them in half, and I thought that was pretty good, and they were understanding. And so I had three baby ruchis, and I was allotted my three basilisks from the clutch, and so one of them ate right away, and then I had these other two, and when I was checking on the other two, they're just in like a baby rack, so I was pulling the drawers open, and one of them escaped. And then, like, it jumped out, jumped on my shirt, jumped on the floor, ran under some cages, and then I'm down there with the flashlight, and it somehow squeezed into a crack like under the baseboard and got into the wall basically, and it was gone. Like, there was
No.
I couldn't even see it, let alone retrieve it. And so then I was really in a pickle, because it was the next morning. So the kids had already gone to school. And I was like, well, sometimes a lot of my experience when I've had to resort to feeding live lizards is it doesn't always happen right away, right? Like, you put a live mouse in, and typically it's a pretty quick reaction, or at least overnight. Sometimes with a live lizard, at least my experience with the chondros, is sometimes it actually takes them 2 or 3 days until they're able to successfully
Wow.
hunt that lizard, even in that little tub, because the lizard knows what's going on. The lizard's, trying to get away from the snake, and sometimes it doesn't happen the first night. Sometimes you got to wait the second or third night. So I was like, well, damn, now I've got one tub with a baby Roushie, and I'm short a baby basilisk, but there's three that in the other room that I've allotted to the kids. So when they were at school, I took one of those and put it in the third tub, and thought, well, like, maybe they all have to explain to them what happened. And then they came home that I had done that, and that I needed to tell them right away before they went and checked on them. And next thing, my daughter's screaming that they're missing one, and what happened to it. And so then I had to negotiate and bargain, and In the end, since only one of the Raushis would eat one, and I had one escape, we still ended up with four. So the allotment was still in their favor, and then ultimately we had to find new homes for those four, um, because they weren't allowed to stay here. And then we did find the missing basilisk. My wife found it about 2 weeks later, and it was all crinkly and dried up. So,
Oh,
um,
nice.
yeah, unfortunately. So we did lose the basilisk. So I can't say nothing was harmed in the making of this story, because at least one basilisk was eaten and one basilisk dried up and was found under
Well,
the
those
carpet.
are
So,
probably pretty good odds for if they hash out in the wild. So, I mean, I think
yep.
it's all still one.
But at least six less invasive lizards in South Florida.
There you go. Now
So
you
we
just
did our part.
gotta, yeah. I mean, I think you got a little bit more to do there in Florida. There may be a couple more things out there.
Yeah, we've got just got so many exotics here. I mean, we've got, just in our yard alone, we've got bufo toads, we've got Cuban tree frogs, we've got curly tail lizards, brown basilisks, brown anoles, Cuban night anoles, green iguanas, um, red-eared sliders. I mean, those are all exotics that we have just in our yard.
Where where are you, Florida, by the way?
So we're in like Palm Beach, West Palm Beach
S-
area.
So that's like that doesn't mean too much to me, but that's like
Okay,
south
so
though.
yeah,
Obviously,
so
we have all those
we're
mountains.
just a little bit north of Miami, so Southeast
Okay.
Florida. So we're considered subtropical. Um, so as the crow flies, it's only maybe 50 or 60 miles south to Miami, where we are. So we're not far from where President Trump vacations at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, very nice.
We're not in that
Fancy.
nice, and no, that's on what's called Palm Beach Island. We're not on the
Yeah.
island. We're on the mainland.
You
That's
didn't
why
get
it's
onto
West
the
Palm
island.
Beach. We're probably not even allowed on the island these days.
So, so talking about Florida, I mean, obviously you've done a lot of traveling outside of Florida. If anyone follows you anywhere, they know that you post these random pictures at really awesome collections from seemingly all over the country. So, how did this kind of come to be, and whose collections have you gone to recently?
Yeah, so my day job requires me to travel quite a bit for work. And so I'm fortunate that I get to visit a lot of other parts of the country. And I've just gotten in the habit of, whenever I go to another city, I try to connect with whoever the local, chondro, Morelia, snake reptile people are, or check out the local zoo, or whatever, cool shop might be in town. And so I've had the chance to visit a lot of cool collections. um, I think I mentioned earlier, I've gotten to visit Keith McPeak's collection a couple times, check out some of his Boeleni and some of the other species he's working with. Also been able to visit with Rory out in California a couple times now, and check out his awesome um, Amazon collection. And then also actually got to visit Eric's collection at Northeast Carpetfest, but also got to visit Owen's collection and Matt Manitola's collection when I was up there in the Philadelphia area. Who else? Let me think. Gary Scavino's place up in New Jersey I've visited. He's got some pretty awesome chondros and some other species that he's working with. So it's just been cool to get to visit a lot of different places. Coming to Texas, getting to see obviously Bill Stiegel's collection, but also getting to visit places like the DFW Reptarium. I've also had the chance to go up to Indianapolis a couple times and visit Forrest Fanning's collection. He's got, it's almost like a zoo at his place, just crocodilians and monitors and all kinds of snakes and lizards and turtles. He's got just an amazing collection, and of course, his Abronia collection. Um, he's also got quite a few arboreal snakes, corallus and green trees and stuff like that.